What's the matter, Kakarot?
Good morning and welcome to another Sunday morning service with the Blerd Church of Anime. My name is Blackstar. I'm your preacher, your teacher, your cult leader, whatever you want to call me. I'm your messenger for today, bringing you a hopefully inspirational message for your week using anime or animation or just all things geeky and nerdy that we love here with us fellow Blerds. So yeah, it is officially May. Like we are at a full week in. The weather is trying to get nice. It's trying. Like spring is ending. Summer's trying to get here. I can't wait for Memorial Day. I am so excited about us being in the month. I had a pretty good week. Nothing super bad happened. A couple cool things happened. It felt like a pretty normal week. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you don't need a high, a low. You just need like a steady going. And I'm here for that. So that's been my week so far this week. I hope you had a pleasant week. Whether it was a super great one or just okay. Things didn't get worse. Things didn't get better. It's okay. We get the weeks too. And if you didn't have a good week, you know what we say around here. F last week. We don't think that's going to happen again for you this week. We believe each week is a chance for the time to get better, for things to grow, for life to go better. Just, yeah, we, like I said, always can't be at the lows, but we always can't be at the high highs either. So, a lot going on. From a message last week, you should know that we are talking about mental health this month. May is mental health month. Makes all the sense, right? I typically want to sit to anime, but anytime I think of animation and mental health, I come back to Steven Universe. Y'all, I told myself I would only do one Steven Universe message per season. I've already done one, but then I decided to cheat it for this week and do a Steven Universe future instead. There's just so many great messages from Steven Universe. It is, I say it all the time. It's like therapy. It's just a way to talk to people about problems. And I do think you're gonna rock with me on this one. This is heavy spoilers because Steven Universe Future is it is a sequel, y'all. Like, it is a sequel. So if you want to be surprised, you don't know the endings of Steven Universe, or you are just like one of those fans, like, I'm not doing Steven Universe Future. Like, some of the fandom was actually really mean about it, and I didn't quite understand. I thoroughly enjoyed Steven Universe Future. I really did. I thought, it was so short. I think I was so sad that it was so short. But I was just happy for anything. I loved any Steven Universe content that we get. And I liked where the story was going. And I think it was definitely needed. And they say this too. And again, here we're going to start with our spoilers of Steven Universe Future, that Steven was always the problem solver for everybody. I said this on my last one, and this is anybody who talks to me about Steven Universe know that I always say Steven is everybody's punching bag. That's why he got the shield. He's there to take the blows, to absorb when people are going through a bad time. And he's just such a great, and Steve's not a therapist, he's not trained, but he's one of those great people, friends, folk to have around that cares and is empathetic. And a lot of people lean on him. There is a downside to that though. And I think Steven Universe Future does such a great job talking about the downside, especially for Steven and seeing it from Steven's point of view. So if you've never seen Steven Universe Future, it is like a couple years into after all the things are finished in Steven Universe, the things with the diamonds, blah, blah, blah. All the secrets are out. There's a movie that's in between, so you definitely watch that, like, Spinelli, get all this stuff, and understanding, like, what Steven's relationship is to Earth, as well as the diamonds, and, like, the plan for all the gems after stopping a whole gem war. And in the future, Steven is back on Earth, and he's like, okay, there's no war. I've like gotten peace all around the galaxy. We're putting things right from the evil colonizers that were the diamonds, changing them, having a better outlook. What now? So like Steven has just been super busy since he was like 10. And now at like a preteen teenager is like, the world is right. What do I do now? And which is fair. Like I think a lot more media, especially comics and books, are starting to talk about what happens after the child savior has done saving everybody and doesn't die in the end. Like, what do you do? This special destined child did the thing, and now they're 30. And now what? There's some really great titles on that. I've seen a couple and reading some comic books about that. But Steven's not 30. He's still a preteen teenager, and he's trying to like figure out who he is without the magical destiny, because he's done the magical destiny thing too. And we're getting into Steven like learning to be still and like work with himself, and power is growing. And I think towards the second half of the series, first off, Steven Universe Future does some really effed up thing. There's some moments that I'm like, ooh, y'all are psychologically traumatizing people with this. But during the second half, we start to see Steven, worrying about his future. What does it look like? Connie's going to eventually go to college. What is Steven going to do? Can they stay together forever? Does people should stay the same? Like all these things are going through his head, and he starts to lose a sense of himself, or the sense of who he thinks people think he should be. Steven's supposed to be this innocent angel, empathetic, great child who makes no mistakes, who is like, he's the therapist for the group, without the therapy license or any of that. He's just there to take on, again, the punching bag. He's there to take on when everybody's feeling bad. But now no one's feeling bad. So what purpose does Steven have? So now Steven is starting to feel bad, and it is affecting him. There's this episode where like he starts growing pink, and like his body starts morphing, and it's basically because of his feelings. And Connie takes him to her mother's hospital. And I love this. Oh my God, this is like one of my favorite scenes. Is that she takes him to the hospital. Connie's mom does like, x-ray scans on him. And she's like, there's all these broken bones in your body. Steven's like, yeah, but I fixed them, because he can heal. She's like, the trauma's still there. That's a word in itself. The trauma still there. You think you healed and you only done the shadow healing, but the trauma is still there. The body remembers. The body's remembering all of this. And Steven doesn't really hear that at the moment. Steven also gets mad at Connie for not telling her mother something that he had done. Steven's going through a lot of emotional upheaval. Like there's stuff with him and Connie, and then like he's like he needs to go find himself. So he asks his dad to take him and teach him more about his family. That starts a whole fight with his dad, mostly because Greg refuses to fight with him. This is a very interesting fight, and I think I will do a whole message on that later too. Because neither sides are wrong, but I think this is where I was a little annoyed with Greg. I don't think he understood what Steven needed, and as Steven grew. And so then Steven decides, he's going to let out his aggression, his angst another way. So he sees Jasper and starts training with Jasper. And then things go awry with Jasper, and he actually shatters Jasper. Big spoiler. Um, it's okay. He got better. You put Jasper together. They're fine. But now Steven has his guilty conscience because they've done something that is considered evil, something really bad. You don't shatter gems. So then Steven goes to go talk to the diamonds and trying to figure out who he is and what does it mean to be a diamond, and especially pink diamond. And he gets really annoyed with them, as you tend to do with the diamonds. They're really annoying. And he lashes out in a way that, like, he lashed out to his dad. He lashes out at White Diamond, and it's kind of violent, and it's not who Steven thinks himself to be. So now Steven is going through this crisis. He can't sit with himself. He's making mistakes. He's starting to not like himself. He doesn't know if he's not being helpful, if he's not solving problems, if people aren't coming to him with a crisis, then who is he? And then he starts going through his own crisis. And then Steven starts seeing himself to be a monster. Steven now that his family is like confronting him, like, hey, there's something wrong. What's going on? You know, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Like they do an intervention, they did kind of stage because they see Steven's going through something, and Steven starts talking about his negative thoughts, and he's like, I'm not who you think I am. I am this monster, and he turns into a kaiju monster. And there's a line that Garnet says, like while they're battling the kaiju Steven, and she's like, as long as he believes that he's a monster, he will be. And I think that happens a lot with people who are having a meltdown, having not even a psychotic break. Like it doesn't have to be something clinical. It could be you are unsure, you're untethered. There's things in your past, there's traumas you've gone through. There's people who need you to be this thing. And then when you get a chance to sit down and be yourself, or sit down and rest, or sit down and just be quiet in the stillness, you don't like yourself. And that, we kind of dealt with this in Steven universe, especially with Amethyst. And Steven was so helpful in like helping Amethyst learn to love herself. But now Steven is like, no one will love me like this. No one will love me if I'm not the person they need me to be. If I'm not Steven that's helping, if I'm not the Steven that's innocent, if I'm not the Steven that's like keep being jokey, being funny, being like, this kid who solves all the things, I have to be this other terrible person. And this episode is like the last, it's like this episode 18 and 19 when he becomes the kaiju, and then when they're actually like defeating the kaiju, is a super important episode for me, not just for Steven's well-being, but for the well-being of the crystal gems and his close friends. So this, I mean, Greg, this is, not just Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, but also Bismuth and Lapis and Peridot, because I'm not gonna forget Perry. Where like most of them only know how to punch a monster. None of them have been the punching bag before. Even like the diamonds come down, and they're like, okay, we got to protect people from Steven, which we never had to do that before, protect the city, the town. They see this giant pink kaiju. But also they know like Steven's somewhere in there, and we have to bring him out. And again, Garnet says that line, as long as he sees himself as a monster, he will be. So they're freaking out. They're like, how do we save Steven? And this makes another great line. She's like, who'll be really great at like getting someone to think past herself and like digging into the heart of the issue? And they're like, who? She's like, Steven. And so they're all trying really hard to figure out, they're trying to do the physical holes. They're like, Lapis comes in with the water chains, as always. That's my girl. The diamonds come in and they try to use some of their new powers, and Steven's not having none of it. He's too strong, he's too powerful in this rage that he's under. And so then they do something that's like super unhelpful, and I think we need to talk about it. So then like everybody on the shore, Greg, the crystal gems, the diamonds, they all start blaming themselves. They're like, I knew something was wrong with Steven, or I felt sympathy, feel like he can tell us this thing, or like I always run when there's Shim stuff. This is my son, I gotta be here for him, or I've made his hard life, or I should have protected Steven. Oh, you were protecting Steven from us. Like they're going through this whole rigmarole of like, how did we get here? Feeling sorry for themselves, feeling bad that Steven feels bad, and it's really annoying because that's not what you do when someone is going through such a crisis, when someone is beating themselves up, lashing out, being angry, doing things, whether it's taking harmful substances, hurting themselves, lashing at other people, trying to get in trouble because they feel that they're unworthy. You sitting there being like, these are all the ways I made you feel unworthy. Oh my gosh. Doesn't solve their problem, doesn't solve your problem. It's you having a pity party at this moment doesn't stop the giant monster in front of you, right? And they're kind of all there crying and boo-hooing and like, oh, Steven's hurt. They understand that this isn't Steven, although it is a part of Steven. It's the manifestation of the worst that Steven sees as himself, especially with all the things that have happened. And it's not till Connie shows back up and she's like, okay, this is not a time to be about yourselves. Stop boo-hooing. Steven has always been there for us. You know who's never had a Steven? Steven. This is our time to show Steven how we care. He always puts everyone else's feelings first, and this is one time we need to put him first. And always here for the Connie and Steven. They're so cute. Um, Even though she's not perfect, still love Connie down. And I think that is when they realize, especially Garnet, that you can't punch your way out of this, you can't hold, and you can't even talk your way out of it. For a lot of them, they're like, "Oh, Steven, we love you. Steven, come back." You know, they're trying to talk him out of this rage, this whole thing that's happening. And I know a lot of fans were really mad that like this giant Caillou fight ends with a giant hug. But like y'all, it's Steven Universe. What were you? They're not gonna beat up Steven. Like, what were you expecting? Are you not fans of the series? Do you not understand? Anyway, so it does. It comes with everyone hugging Steven and letting him know how important he is to them, how they will always love him despite anything, how like he should never feel like he has to hide a part of himself from them. And if he feels that way, that means they failed in their jobs and it's not his fault. And that he is super important to all of them. Not just one person, it's even the diamonds. Everybody jumps in and they're like, "You're going through a hard time. That's fair. We haven't made your life easy. That's our fault. You felt like you couldn't tell us about these bad parts of yourself, about these dark thoughts, about, this trauma and the struggle you've been going through because you had to keep it together for all of us." And yes, I would say through most of Steven Universe, Steven was so important because he kept those gems together. Like, oh my gosh, for them to being his guardians. Even Greg. Although Greg isn't as messy as the diamonds. I mean, not the diamonds, but like, well, the diamonds, but also the gems, the crystal gems. But I think there's something to be said that he had felt like he had to be the one that kept everyone together. And then what happens to the family if you fall apart? And that's when the family jumps in and be like, "Yeah, it's okay for you to fall apart. We got you. We got you. Whatever happened, we're here to listen. We're whatever mistakes you made, we're not here to judge. We're here to help you figure out how to be better. We're here to figure out how to fix it. We're here to talk to you about what you learned from it. We're here to, help you become the better person you want to be because that's what family does. That's what your loved ones are supposed to do." And I'm tying this into all that we do because I think all of us I might be projecting, which is fine. I'm going to project here. I think all of us have had some type of mental or some type of meltdown. And it could be for various reasons. It could be it's just too much stress built up. Maybe you have been the strong one. I love it when people's like, check on your strong friends because your strong friends are not always going to be strong. There's a point where your strong friends just need a space, a safe space to not hold up the world. And I felt like this is indicative of what Steven was doing. Steven felt like he had to hold up the whole world. And when it became evident that he could not, that he had his own issues, he felt like he was letting everyone down. He made mistakes trying to figure out who he was. And then that led to like the bad things, the bad thoughts, the bad actions, shattering Jasper, like all those things, just that aggression that he felt like he's not allowed to have because that's not very Steven Universe of him, right? It's amazing how many people like therapists need therapists too. Like therapists need to go to therapy, counselors, folk who see the worst in humans or who are always the best people who take on a lot of our issues, who are our support systems, they need to be supported too. And in this mental health awareness month, the people that have like supported us when we've been our messiest, the people who always got our back when we are insecure or anxious or don't know what's going on, have you been there for them? And if you're like, "Well, I never had the chance to, I never need to be, they're so put together." Okay, in front of you, because they don't trust that they can be there. Like, I think that's the biggest part of this was that Steven didn't trust his family, his friends to accept this messy part of him, to not be the version of Steven that they needed. And he has evidence for that. I think throughout this entire season, there's been an episode when like Steven, like the young jolly kid, you don't want to play, snowballs with us on the snowing day. So he's like, "I'm more of an adult now." He wants to be together with Connie, and Connie kind of rejects that. Not Steven, but this idea what Steven thought the relationship was supposed to be, which really hurt his feelings. He's trying to get Greg to show him where he comes from, and Greg's not understanding why Steven feels cheated. And then like the diamonds just don't understand anything. They just, they're so unhelpful. And then it goes back to the original three. His garnet, his pearl, his amethyst, and they know something's up and are trying to give him space. But Steven has been literally holding them up. Steven has taken on all of their weight of their lies and their sins and their trauma, even then they try not to give it to him. But he's been around for a lot of their messiness. Just that's all the Steven universe, all right? Is their messiness. And he feels like he's letting them down by not being perfect. It's just terrible. Oh my, I like y'all. There's so many like little Tumblr posts about high achieving kids. You know, the ones that had such anxiety about like getting straight A's and how like they're crippled now. Not like crippled, but like their mental health is shot now as adults. Like how many high achieving people you know just aren't doing anything with that high achievement because they're burnt out. What's the fuck I'm talking about? These are the people who have the meltdowns and don't always have the people who they're supposed to who they've supported know how to correctly support them. Because again, even the gems, even Greg, even all of them were trying to stop Steven and get, connect with them and stop the rampage, but they weren't doing it in the right way. It wasn't until Connie's like, we need to be Steven, like how Steven would support us. We need to do that for him now. And it came with telling Steven exactly what he needed to hear, which is, we're sorry that you felt like you couldn't give all of yourself to us and you want to be messy. You want to like rampage. You feel there's bad thoughts. You feel that there's pieces of you that are not the Steven you want to be. We'll accept that and we'll move forward with how you want us to do it. Just trust us to have you. Trust us to support you. Please. And he did. And he's no longer Kaiju Steven. And then you have your last episode of the whole show, which I'm not gonna spoil that. Like the last episode is I cry watching the Kaiju episode. There are just so many teary moments, and I cry on the last episode especially. I'm not a crybaby, I promise you, but these shows get me. But there's a moment when they're like, you see, like months after the meltdown, Steven has a therapist. Like, it wasn't that in that moment, they're like, well, it's up to you, we'll talk through it, whatever. They also get the work to give Steven professional help. I'm gonna throw that out there too. Like, you just can't always talk people down from the brink. And if you get a chance to do it, especially in a moment of crisis, as you should. I know I talked about this with Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, how he's just kind of there for people, but he doesn't get these people professional help. He's kind of there dealing with the sci-fi of it all. I love that Steven Universe talks about Steven getting a therapist, somebody he can talk to, someone that he can, an objective third party where he can share his life, the things he's feeling. So that way he doesn't, because I think it's so really, really hard sometimes not feel like you're a burden to your loved ones, especially after a big episode. So I do want to shout that out. But I think also working with a therapist helps Steven learn in more places where he can grow and what he needs to do to better feel like he's acclimated to life on Earth and be a normal teenager in some spaces, to grow into it. Is I Steven Universe fans, like, if you dislike Future, like, drop it in the comments. Let me know why. I feel like I'm still trying to understand this dislike towards this series because I thought it did what needed to be done. As someone who started the Steven Universe franchise, especially the first season of Steven Universe, not liking Steven and then realizing, oh, this only works because of Steven, and then seeing him grow, I am very happy for this series. I am very happy for Future to be like, and Steven's not okay. And it's okay for Steven not to be okay. I'm surprised you expected him to be okay after all the shit we went through, all the stuff we went through in Steven Universe proper. So I'm a fan. It's just too short for me. I want 5 more seasons. It's even Grady because I love this property so much. Thank you, Rebecca Sugar, for like gracing us with this. And I know this also. I think I might have said this on my other Steven Universe like stuff. People really mad that like he forgives the diamonds and how this murderous regime. I'm like, again. for a show to make it on to television, you're not going to get True Evolution. I don't know why you're expecting, especially a kids cartoon, to give you True Evolution. I don't even know. I don't even care. We're talking about colonization and reparations like they do in Star versus the Universe, which I do need to do an episode on that. Star. If y'all haven't seen Star versus the Universe, you may not get this in the first season, but towards season 2, since I'm like, oh, we're talking about colonization on a Disney show, and the ending is trash, but it's still it's still great to bring up that and how people do it. I'm gonna have a conversation about that later, I promise. But yeah, I think Steven Universe is like very white queer woman coded. It is what it is when you deal with the family that causes harm. And I think it's very important for people to understand what happens when you're in a family that causes harm, what you can do. Um, and then also know that harm is done to you in that same space, and you need a space to unpack that. And people who you feel safe enough to love you through your messiness. Not, I think one thing I do like, they don't enable Steven to rampage through the town and cause. They're trying to save Beat City because I think they know that Steven, when he comes back to himself, would be devastated by if he like was to hurt people or destroy Beat City. And so there is a part of containment that does have to happen. You don't enable people to go out and hurt despite them being hurt, which is really, really important. But all this is a really deep, deep, long metaphor to say, check on your strong friends, the people who are there and support you through your lowest parts. The people you always lean on may also be the people who need somebody to lean on, and they won't come and tell you. They may not ask for it because they know that you know them to be strong, or the friend that has it together. But if you notice something, even an inkling, just put yourself in a position that you can be there to catch them when they fall. Everybody needs a soft space, a soft place to land in some of the worst moments. And make sure they know that you are a safe space. And if something happens, a pop off, a meltdown, be there. Be there. Not to fight them per se, but to hug them, to say, I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm sorry for my part in helping you feel like you had no one else to talk to in doing this. And I'm here right now. What do you need? What do you need? That's the important part. And I hope this week you could be there for somebody. I'm not hoping that someone has a meltdown on you. Let's not say that. But as we go through Mental Health May, you recognize your own mental health and how you can support the people who you may think don't have any problems, because everybody has problems. Especially everybody is going through something, even when they're hiding it. It just is. Sorry, I don't make those rules. Anyway, I'm gonna end it there. We're getting long-winded. I could talk about Steven Universe all day, but yeah, drop that in the chat. Tell me, did you like Steven Universe Future? Have you ever seen it? Did you even know about it? I'm currently watching Danny Mata take forever to react to the Steven Universe. Like, I need him to be doing 4 episodes like his a drop, because bruh, do you know how many episodes of Steven Universe there is? And you still gotta get to Future. Like, watching him go through this first part of season 1, and he's asking all these questions like, we can't get there, but you're not gonna get there till next year, my dude. Like, probably 3 years from now that the rate you're going. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm calm. We're good. We're great. Till next time, I hope to see you later. Okay? Bye! The Blerd Church of Anime podcast is produced by Black Star, aka Lauren Tillman, written by Lauren Tillman, and hosted by Lauren Tillman. Music created by EL47.